Wagner mercenary group's leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who's been in the news for the longest time. Take a look at this right here on the Tribune. On the top front page, it says, Wagner chief feared dead in jet crash in Russia. Now, the thing is that he was said to be on the passenger list of the 10 people who were traveling in that private jet. But at the same time, no confirmation per se, because the bodies haven't been able to be identified yet. The crash was so ghastly. And of course, we've got some visuals of the crash, and we've had to pick and choose those visuals very carefully because there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of disfigured, dismembered bodies on the ground as well. Varghese, the Kremlin has been infamous, right? And well, I'm not going to, the hint is clear out there. But of course, there is no confirmation per se. Now, take a look at that. You can see the plane falling down. This recorded off of a mobile phone. That's the plane that's coming down, and it's going to crash, in a huge farmland. Now, the conspiracy theories are already doing the rounds on the internet. People are saying that the aircraft was tampered with. People are saying that this is another move to silence Yevgeny Prigozhin. The last time around, the Wagner Wagner mercenaries declared a march to Moscow. It pretty much happened, unopposed. And this time around, it's going to be interesting to see because Putin has taken the heavier artillery from Wagner mercenaries. They have announced the march again, but will it be as unopposed as it was last time around? Because you just can't simply march into Russia's Moscow anymore.
Well,
not so easily.
There are no geographical features that tend to protect Moscow itself. I mean, after most of Eastern Europe, it's kind of a vast plain. So it's easy for any army to march straight towards Moscow. And the only thing that overbearing would be the Russian winter that tends to stop armies from moving towards Moscow. And of course, we are not reached that winter stage. So we are expecting the mercenaries to, in fact, go ahead. But how will Putin handle an angry mercenary group like the Wagner group, which has provided some kind of momentous kind of push for the Russian forces in Ukraine, and at the same time it has become a thorn on the part of the Russian army as well. So here we see when Prigozhin first started that rebellion, it was about replacing certain generals for the wrong decisions taken, and then you saw the kind of rebellion that happened, and then there was this compromise deal. Yeah, this is the type of compromise deal that we have seen.
That's another picture from the crash site.
And all this happened, and then we have Prigozhin's plane crash. Of course, a lot of people are trying to put 2 + 2 is equal to 4, but again, without evidence, we wouldn't go to that. But the fact remains is that there is a question mark on the Wagner chief's death, because in the middle of the war, he did make Putin look very, very vulnerable. And the strongman image that Putin was trying to portray was not evident when the Wagner group was marching towards Moscow. And of course, after things were in control, we did say that there was some kind of a compromise that was reached with the mercenary group. But then after the death of Prigozhin, I think Putin has unleashed a force that is going to be quite detrimental to an extent. But how would he in fact try to assuage it is the big question that we need to ask. Detrimental in the sense that if his calculations goes wrong, he is taking a huge risk of starting another civil war within Russia's territory, and at the same time waging a war in Ukraine. So it's going to be a double front.
General Surovkin has been removed from office as well. Now, take a look at this. Russia has removed Sergei Surovkin, nicknamed General Armageddon, as the head of the Air Force. He had reportedly vanished from public view during the Wagner mercenary mutiny against the top army brass. 2 media outlets confirmed Surovkin's removal. Wagner chief's mutiny could have triggered civil war. This is something that Putin had said. So, of course, again, all pointing towards the fact that there might be some foul play at hand in this crash. That's essentially the report that's doing the rounds. Rebel Prigozhin, Wagner boss, among 10 who were feared dead in that particular jet crash. Now, Surovkin is the most senior Russian military figure to lose his job over the June 23rd, 34 mutiny. which President Vladimir Putin has said could have tipped Russia into civil war. Prigozhin wanted to topple Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Valery Gerasimov, Chief of General Staff. Both remain in their posts as of now. Now, once commander of Russia's overall war effort in Ukraine, when he was lauded by Russia and the Western military experts as one of its most effective operators, Surovikin has not yet been publicly fired. His sacking was confirmed by Russian state news agency. Now, the RIA that claimed Colonel General Viktor Avslov was temporarily acting as commander-in-chief of the Air Force. The RBC news outlet, citing two unnamed sources, also reported that Surovikin had been removed from his post. The news suggests the authorities found fault with his behavior during the revolt. I mean, for strange reasons, somebody like, their chief of Armageddon has been removed. Prigozhin, who somebody they thought could have tipped off a civil war in Russia, now removed from the equation completely. What's going to happen next? What about the other Wagner mercenaries?
Well, that is the big question I think they are all asking, because as I said, the Wagner mercenaries have proved that they can be a thorn for the Russian state, and they have also proved that they can easily march towards Moscow. Their march was stopped despite reports coming in when Prigozhin was alive that his mercenary group was being attacked. They did march quite close to Moscow. So it is going to be an unwanted situation that Putin has created, and maybe Putin has the plan that in case a rebellion breaks out, how to deal with it. But right now it looks like a brutal decision has been taken, and in that brutal decision what we are looking at is that probably we don't know how the entire episode of Prigozhin's death is involved, but there seems to be a brutal decision being taken to say that they are not going to tolerate any sort of rebellion, no matter what, because as I was saying, you don't want an internal disturbance within Russian state when you're having a war. No country wants that.
Meanwhile, I'm sure this is fatal news, and it's unfortunate that somebody has died, but I'm sure on the other side of the
and someone who was very loyal to Putin.
On the other side of the front
someone
lines.
Who was very loyal to Putin.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He was,
Western experts have, like I was saying, Western experts have said he's one of the best operators that Putin had.
Effective operators. He was sent to a place where there was complete standstill on the front, and he was able to, in fact, make some kind of headway on that front as well. So this is Prigozhin, who was supposed to have been...
You remember the Bakhmut firing, the Bakhmut shelling? And Bakhmut, one of the most important, points in Western Ukraine, it was captured by Prigozhin and the Wagner mercenaries. Well, what's going to happen?
That's what I'm saying. He was actually dropped off in very...
People, look at that. People are, trickling in with roses.
Well, I think Prigozhin...
There's a reaction by the United States' President, Joe Biden, on this. Let's quickly listen into that.
I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
Do you think Putin was responsible?
There's not much that happens when Russia and Putin not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer. I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
Do you think Putin was responsible?
There's not much that happens when Russia and Putin not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer.
Well, so the United States President says he doesn't know the facts, but he's not surprised. And let me tell you, many on this planet won't be surprised.
A lot of people won't be surprised, because
people across the front lines in Ukraine.
This is kind of a technically a Russian chess game where you have to be keeping your eyes and ears open.